and I am joined now, as always, by my guy, my friend, my co-host, my draft Sherpa, Dane Brugler. And buddy, I'm excited for this show because I think I'm gonna get some takes out of you as we inch into the second half of this college football season. How we doing?
Good. I mean, yeah, we're getting to that point, right, where it's gotta stand on something, right? No, you can't ride the fence.
A man's got to have a code.
Exactly. There you go. So, look, we still got a lot of time. Things change, but as we get to middle October and then Halloween, then Thanksgiving, hay's in the barn for a lot of these players. Like they put everything you want to see on tape. Like you should have a really firm opinion on who these guys are, and so we're getting to that point with some of these guys.
It's wild to think because and I mean I know playoff teams play. I mean, if you're on a playoff team, you're gonna wind up playing a ton of football games, but there aren't that many opportunities left for a lot of these college football players. I mean, you have 4, maybe 5 if you've had the right amount of bye weeks games. And so there is still time to make a different impression. But yeah, like from a scouting perspective, would you say it's fair to think that opinions on these guys are maybe if they're not set in stone, they're just kind of starting to firm up. Like the concrete is firming up a little bit on these evaluations.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and we have to. So often we look at scouting through our own perspective, where we're watching college football every week, and but that the area scouts, they're on the road. They're not really sitting in front of their TVs just watching game after game after game. They're focused on, in a lot of cases, a singular game, two teams, the prospects, and then they might not see that team again the rest of the way, or they might go back for a recheck, or so it's scouting in the NFL is very different than the way we perceive scouting, the way we do it. And so that makes it really interesting because if you're in a certain place, on a certain campus, on a certain weekend where maybe a player doesn't have the best week, doesn't have a great game, doesn't have a great week of practice, or maybe they're coming off a rough game, and so the vibes aren't great in in the facility. All that stuff kind of matters, and that's why, there's not only area scouts, but national scouts. And, the whole process is, we could talk for hours just on how NFL scouting works. But, it definitely makes things interesting with when teams go to see certain players, what's going on in that situation. But I mean, to your point, like we are running out of games for a team like LSU, for example.
Oh, low
I know. So,
blow.
no, no.
Low blow.
But it's topical because, like, a quarterback like Garrett Nussmeier, like, in all intents and purposes, like, he is running out of starts here for him to really put a flag on, "Hey, I'm an NFL starter, this is why," right? I mean, I thought he's played okay the last 2 games, since he's came back from that injury. I don't think he is the reason they have been losing. But at the same time, you still need to show more if you wanna be a top 50 pick. And so how he performs this weekend, how he performs against Alabama, like that's going to go a long way to kind of determining things. And so you're just running out of and I chose LSU for Nussmeier, not because of you, but it is what it is at this point in the schedule, right?
No, that's completely fair. I would agree on the long list of reasons why LSU's disappointing. Garrett Nussmeier is definitely one of them, but he's not at the top of the list right now, I guess is what I would say there. I am it's interesting to think how that works from a scouting perspective where like where people's opinions and narratives meet. And I'm talking about like within the organizations themselves. Like what we're doing that's a lot less important, but where like a guy who has had eyes on a prospect or had eyes on a team, been to a game, been to those practices, seen the good, now you're going up against somebody who's watched from afar or has been in a different area, and when those two perspectives meet, I think that's very interesting in terms of like how teams come to a consensus evaluation of these guys. And obviously, that's still a long ways off inside the buildings. But like
Well,
I
it's
said, I think
fluid. Yeah.
it is starting to be more informed, right? Like it's less of like, oh well, there's still so much season to go. Like like I said, I think people's opinions, while still subject to change, are becoming at least a little firmer than they were.
Well, I mean, I texted a scout this week about a certain player and just, "Hey, what do you think about him?" He's, "I don't know. I don't go there until November." And it's like, "Oh, okay." Like, he just hasn't got eyes on him since July. So, that's common with how schedules work out and, how they determine some schools are restrictive, about when they want scouts on campus.
I've heard a few things about that in the last few days
Eh,
over the course of this week.
I'm not gonna bring up Wisconsin, but the truth is, it's just that's, scouting with from an NFL perspective and how they operate, and then how colleges and how they receive scouts, it's different everywhere. So, yeah, it's definitely part of this process to get it as every team tries to figure it out and get it all right.
So in the vein of that, in the vein of having a little bit firmer of an opinion, I said what I said at the top of the show for a reason. We're going to go back to our tried but true format for this week. We're going to hand out some game balls at the top of the show. And I got really excited when I heard where you wanted to start this thing off because we're handing out a game ball to a guy we've talked a good bit about, Ty Simpson, starting to become less of like a novelty and like an eyebrow raiser and more of like a serious conversation about what this guy's doing. He goes 19 to 29 for 253, two touchdowns. Alabama beats Tennessee pretty convincingly. I think the pick six at the end of the first half kind of changed the dynamic of this game, but still a very convincing win for Alabama and another very, very impressive game for Ty Simpson, who we should be talking about a lot in this quarterback class if we haven't already.
And I think we have. Like we've brought him up. I mean, really since like maybe the Wisconsin game, we've been kind of talking about him as all right. There's something here. And he just continues to stack good game after good game, putting good stuff on tape. Zero interceptions. I think he only has one on the year. It was that one against Vanderbilt. So he's just been very efficient, and the tape was even more impressive than just the stat line. I tweeted yesterday what I thought were his three best throws from the game against Tennessee, and each one shows you poise, the stones to decisively attack a tight window, and then just a ball placement where I'm going to put the ball where my guy can attack it and it's out of reach of the defender. And so I think that's so key when you scout quarterbacks. I mean, the biggest difference between quarterbacks transitioning to the NFL is just truly understanding there's college open and NFL open, right? And I feel like every game Simpson's anticipating. He's making those tight window throws, throws that aren't just wide open, but they're true NFL level throws. And so I don't know if you saw, but Dan Orlovsky, he quote tweeted my tweet about Simpson, and I it was three best plays, and I said he belongs in the QB1 conversation. Orlovsky quote tweeted it and said clearly, at quote clearly quarterback number one, and it's not close. And I look, I love Dan, but he's known to be hyperbolic at times. But
I think he gets impressed, which like
yeah,
I identify with Dan because I get very impressed and very excited by what
sure.
I'm seeing. So I get it. Even like yeah, maybe we should stick to a more scientific method, but I get his excitement.
100%, no doubt. And I mean, I that's not something I haven't told Dan, in our conversations. So I think the elephant in the evaluation with Ty Simpson is the resume. It's 7 career starts right now. Let's say he finishes, say 14 starts. Maybe Alabama goes to the SEC title game. Maybe they win one playoff game. I don't. We'll see. Time will tell. Let's just say he finishes with 14 starts. There is not a starting quarterback in the NFL right now who has had less than 15 starts in college in his career. So there's no track record. Like it's happened in the past. I mean, go back to Cam Newton and we've seen it before where it's like one and done type of season, but it is rare and we don't see it very often. So, and we've talked about this before with Simpson. It's a unique situation. He's a fourth year guy, 23 years. He's going to be 23 years old here in a month. Waited his turn behind Bryce Young, Jalen Milroe. Despite the lack of starts, he's truly playing like a veteran. I mean, you factor in that he grew up at a Division I program, his dad being head coach at Tennessee Martin since Simpson was 3 years old. This is what he's been preparing for, and he has absolutely stepped up for the moment, but there's no substitute for experience, plain and simple. And so I think it'll be interesting with Simpson. Do you trust what the tape says strictly, or the precedent of what history has told us about the correlation of college starts and NFL success? And so for me, I know like I'm keeping an open mind. Like he's doing enough on tape for me to feel very comfortable saying he belongs in the quarterback one conversation, but so few starts, it's tough. It's not a disqualifier, but it's tough. Now, I think it helps that he's facing an SEC schedule. The fact that this doesn't look fluky, like he is putting really good stuff on film. You cannot ignore the lack of starts and the lack of things that he has experienced that maybe he'll see it for the first time in the NFL and how tough that can be. So, Dante Moore from Oregon, throw him in this kind of a similar boat. He'll finish with maybe 20 career starts if he declares after this year. So I think this is a topic that we'll continue to talk about and debate, and as we go through it, especially if these quarterbacks declare.
I feel like the stakes are higher now I mean, the NFL season is starting to take shape to the point where we can at least take a guess at teams that are going to care about this. I mean,
Right.
if you're a New York Jets fan, you probably have a close eye on the quarterback class right now. The New Orleans Saints, obviously. I don't know how that would work, but even if I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, I've probably got a close eye on the quarterback
You have
situation in
to.
college football right now. Let me ask you this, man. Okay. Let's just assume Bama plays more than 13 games. Like whether they go on a run through the playoffs or they make the SEC title game, don't really care. Knowing that that will be the sample size, is there anything he can do to take you off of that concern or like alleviate it? And I mean, he's alleviating it every week in the way that he
Right.
plays. But is there a mark that he can hit where you're just like, all right, he's got it. I don't care if it's one season.
I mean, I feel like we did this, like Anthony Richardson was this type of guy. Anthony Richardson had
That's the guy I wanted to bring up.
yeah, 13 career starts in college. And it was like, yeah, you wish he had more of a resume, but man, you don't find these physical traits. What have we seen from Anthony Richardson in the NFL is just, the NFL is not a developmental league, and that's really what he needs. He needs development. With Simpson, he's definitely doing more as a pure drop back quarterback that will translate to the next level in terms of his reads, his ball placement, things what we talked about. The poise is outstanding. So like all those things are great, but there's no substitute for experience. And so I think it's always going to be a concern. Now, can that concern, it can be less of a concern depending on how he finishes here? Sure. I mean, if he goes out and, they win the SEC and they don't have to win a national title, but as long as he's the reason they don't lose in the playoffs, like that's something that it would be hard to just dismiss in the draft process. Like you don't having a say 14 starts, it shouldn't be a disqualifier. It shouldn't. But is that the difference between if you grade him and Fernando Mendoza very closely, is that the difference why you would lean Mendoza over Ty Simpson? Maybe. I think the answer to that will be different for just about everybody.
Keeping an open mind too, and we'll see. I mean, maybe somebody can make him look like a guy who hasn't played a lot of football. There's still a couple big games left on the regular season schedule, and one way or another, Bama looks like a team that's going to play some type of postseason game. But I'm buying it, dude. I really, what I'm trying to say is, I really don't care. Like, if you watch this guy play quarterback, the way that he's doing it, it just looks for real, dude. Like he throws over the middle of the field fearlessly. He throws with anticipation. We've talked about it before. Like he's a better athlete than you might expect. Like his maneuverability, the way that he can escape pressure while still looking downfield. Like one of the most impressive plays he made. I don't know if it was in your clip, but it was like the first third down of the game. He's backed up in his
From his
own
end
end
zone.
zone.
Yeah.
He gets pressure from multiple spots. He buys time against SEC edge rushers and works through his progression and finds the tight end sitting over the middle of the field. It's like a check down, but like the process and the calm of not panicking in that situation, it just jumps out at you. And then you add in like the layered throws and the touch that he can put on the ball and the way he drops it in the bucket. He just looks like he's been doing this forever. And maybe somebody will make him look like he hasn't, but like Anthony Richardson, that's what I wanted to bring him up because he's a guy where it's like, okay, I see the flashes, but are you doing it on a down in and down out basis? This guy's been doing it on a down in, down out basis for 7 weeks now.
No doubt, and, I think maybe the closest, comparison in terms of resume, it might be a guy we've mentioned before in the Ty Simpson conversation. That's Mac Jones, who was really just a one-year guy. I think he finished with 17 starts at Alabama total. Now he won a national title and, did some good things, and he was a first-round pick. Things didn't go so great, with his first spot, but he's kinda having a little bit of career resurgence now, with the 49ers, and who knows what that means for his future, but, it's just the track record of quarterbacks with under 20 starts is just it's abysmal. The only one who is starting in the NFL right now who had under 20 starts in college is Kyler Murray. Yeah, I think he was at 17 too. And that's been a very volatile situation for the Cardinals offense. So, it's something that we haven't seen. Now, again, you can't paint with a broad brush. Each one of these guys are very unique with their circumstances. And with Ty Simpson, I just growing up in a Division 1 program, like he learned from a very young age what it takes to play quarterback at a high level. And so being in that locker room, being on that practice field, like that's at least something. And so if he continues to play at this level where he's being efficient, he's as kind of I'm talking to one scout about him playing really boring ball, but in the best way possible. Like if he continues to do that and does it against LSU, does it against Auburn, does it in the SEC title game, does it in the playoffs, yeah, you start to run out of reasons why he should not be if not quarterback 1, still a top 10 pick.
I'll say this right now, if that's where this season is going for Bama, like if they make a run through the playoff, maybe even win the national title, and it's largely because he's playing this way,
Yeah. It's a rocket
then
ship.
that just
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And that's I wanted to and obviously I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's kind of what I do, whatever. Um I did want to say this too, like, and Ty Simpson did not play poorly in the loss to Florida State. Like, he was not bad in that game, even if he wasn't at his best.
And it was his
If
first career
they,
start ever. Like,
yeah,
it's
that's if they don't lose that game, I think the dialogue around this guy would be even different than it already is, and people are talking about him as QB1 right now. Like, that's if they're undefeated and he's playing this way, I don't think it would have taken as many people a month to catch up to what's going on in Tuscaloosa right now.
but and at the same time, I do think it's fair that like we're talking about a guy with single digit starts. So it is fair if you want to take a more cautious approach, patient approach with a quarterback with single digit starts, I get it, 100%. I'm not going to blame you at all, not you, but just you in general, anybody out there, if you're going to be a little more hesitant to get on this bandwagon. I understand completely. But at a certain point, he might force you to get on because the way they've been playing and the way this thing might be headed, it's looking like it could be, with the way Alabama could SEC title game, playoffs, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell, but it could force people to get on that bandwagon. When I think maybe there's some of their senses tell them, "Hey, I wish I had more." Which I wish we had more, but it is what it is. And him being already 23 years old and a graduate and all that, I wouldn't be surprised to see him declare and go to the next level.
All I'm saying, if you're a Jets fan, Browns fan, Saints fan,
Yeah.
go pull up some clips and decide for yourself. Go watch him play against Georgia and Missouri and Tennessee and see what you think. I think it is fair to talk about him as QB1. I like Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore as well, but his resume, even if it is smaller than you would prefer, is starting to look very impressive. Really quickly before we go to break, and I don't want to gloss over this because he beat my school's ass, but I do think and he's not, I don't think he's in the conversation for QB1, but this does feel like a good spot to just talk about Diego Pavia. If we're handing out game balls, he definitely gets 160 passing yards, 86 rushing yards, 3 total touchdowns to beat LSU on Saturday. Uncharted territory for the Vanderbilt program. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what we think his NFL future could look like, because I mean, we've been pretty clear this is not a guy that's going to go in the first round, but I don't know, man, between his attitude and his athleticism and his moxie, I gotta I wouldn't be I gotta believe an NFL team is gonna fall in love with him as a guy that they might want to have around, even if he's not a big time pick.
I mean, we're still October. Where we are right now, I'd be shocked if he was drafted. I mean, just shocked. Now, if he takes Vanderbilt on a run and they win the SEC or they go to the playoff or, I don't, who knows? Maybe things could change, but I just don't think he has. I mean, obviously he's an undersized guy, but I just don't think he has the arm either to really. He's not going to test defenses down the field, at least where I think you're going to spend a draft pick on him. Now he'll go to a camp, he'll be a PFA and have a chance to make some noise once he get into an NFL training camp. But at this point, I'd still be surprised if he was drafted. And look, I do want to give Vanderbilt their props because the way they're playing is just they're a fun watch, and they are absolute contenders in the SEC, which is something I've never said in my lifetime. But you look at their team. Eli Stowers at tight end. He's the one guy that's a lock draft pick. I think he has a chance to go somewhere in round 3. And then they have a few guys that are in that late round conversation, borderline draft picks. Jordan White, I think he can be a backup center in the league. Corday Senor, a defensive end's got traits. Colby Taylor's almost 6'3" at corner. He's going to test well. So Vanderbilt has guys. I would be very surprised if Pavia is one of them. And hey, I hope he hears this and puts it up on the bulletin board and proves me wrong. Because I mean, he's a very entertaining guy to watch, and it's fun to watch him play football.
From what I've gleaned about him over the course of the last 2 years, I bet he will. He just he screams to me whether he gets drafted late or not at all or anywhere in between. He's gonna be a guy where the fan base is, like, excited that he's there. Just like, "Oh, shit, like, did you see what this guy
Right.
did at Vanderbilt?" And, he can maybe we can find some creative ways to use him, whatever. That he has that written all over him for
I
me.
I do want to give you props because you early on wanted to talk about Trinidad Chambliss, the Ole Miss quarterback who was up and down against Georgia over the weekend. But this is a guy that, talking to scouts, he's getting draftable grades. Because even
Some of us just have a natural eye, Dane.
Look, I didn't want to talk about him initially. I was like, he's undersized, D2 guy. Like I don't know. I think he'll probably come in at 5'10" and change, 190 pounds. But watching more of him, I get it. Like he has an arm where he's going to challenge all 3 levels. There's touch to what he's doing out there, and so I think Ole Miss is hoping they can get him back one more year. But yeah, he's receiving draftable grades from scouts and has somewhat of a floor that I think scouts can get on board with.
Similar to Ty Simpson, and I'm not talking about QB1, I just mean the way that they play, but, like, it's not gimmicky. Like, the way that he plays is not gimmicky. Like, he's got an arm, he's willing to rip the ball into windows and over the middle of the field, and his athleticism is a huge plus too. He is as an LSU fan, I can say Diego Pavia and Trinidad Chambliss are both very frustrating players to go against, which is what you want your quarterback to be. All right, Dane, another game ball I wanted to hand out. I don't know how in depth we have to go. We know he's incredible, but you at least got to mention what Jeremiyah Love did to USC on Saturday night. 24 totes, 228 yards and a touchdown. 5 receptions for 37 yards for good measure. He can really do it all. I guess my only real question for you is how high do you think Jeremiyah Love could go? Like, is this another year where a running back is worthy of top 10 consideration? Or is Jeremiyah Love more of a normal first round running back type of prospect?
Can I sell you on a comp of James Cook with a lead foot? Like, I think he's more explosive than Cook, and sometimes to his own detriment. Like, he's always attacking full speed. You wanna see maybe some more consistent patience in his run style, but, man, this is an athlete that you bet on, and so, yeah, his ability to catch his balance through contact is really unique, major weapon in the passing game, and I think that is part of what's going to make him a very high first round pick is he similar to, like, Jahmyr Gibbs and, he's a true weapon that you have to account for, and every single time he's out there. Not as, just getting the handoff, but, okay, is he gonna motion out? What is he doing after is he gonna run, a route? Is it gonna be a simple screen? Is it gonna be a check down? You have to be aware as a defense where Jeremiyah Love is every single snap, and so this is the type of explosive weapon teams want. I don't think he's on me personally, I don't think he's on the Bijan Robinson, level as a prospect myself, but I think he's right below it. I mean, I think he's kinda right there, and, especially in this draft where we've talked about this is not we'll see what happens with the quarterbacks, who declares, who goes back, but just the non-quarterbacks, how many of these non-quarterbacks do you feel great about drafting in the top 10? It's not a long list. It's definitely not a list of 10. So a guy like Love, who you feel good about the player you're getting. Now, I don't think that every team, especially in the top 10, should be drafting a running back that high. The Raiders might be having some uh, little
I was gonna
remorse
say
there.
we're seeing how that's playing out in Vegas right
Exactly, and
now.
it's not that Ashton Genty's a bad player or a bad pick, or it's just as a organization, as an offense, you better be in a certain spot with the current makeup of your roster to just invest in a running back that early. Now, we've seen it work out great for the Falcons, work out for the Lions with Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think it could absolutely work with Love as a top 10 pick for the right offense. But um, it's I think that the fact that this class is what it is will help Love go into those top 10 picks because again, this is the type of weapon teams want. Explosive, can take it to the house anytime he touches the ball, the type of player that defenses have to really account for.
It's so wild now. We've played enough games in the NFL season where you can sort of look at the draft order and have an idea. And I'm just mentally plugging Jeremiah Love into situations like, "Oh,
What do you got?
that would be really fun."
Give me one or two.
I mean, and look, I know that they have a future need at quarterback. I understand that, but like the Rams have Atlanta's pick. So
Yeah.
the Rams would be drafting in the top 15 right now. That's really fun. We
Mhm.
all love Kyron Williams, but
Two Notre Dame
adding
backs in
some
that backfield. That'd be fun.
adding some real deal explosiveness to the Rams running game could be a lot of fun. I get it. You probably want to draft a quarterback, whatever. Same thing. Like I just Cincinnati is blinking at me and I'm like, "Oh man, that would piss a lot of people off because they have so many needs on defense." But I'd be excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I Titans, I mean, you help I mean, y
Sure.
the whole thing for the Titans this offseason should be how do we help our young quarterback? And you add a guy like this into that backfield, that'd be a ton of fun. So, yeah, I think it would not be a hard sell, I think, to a lot of, fan bases picking in the top 15. It's just a matter of, you know, again, I think I keep going back to here, sorry to put you on the spot, but non-quarterbacks, who are you excited about? Who would you be excited about drafting in the top 10? Like, it's not a long list for you, right? As it's not for me.
I mean, off the top of my head, I'd be excited about Ruben Bain. I'd be excited about Caleb Downs.
Arvell,
I know that, yeah, Arvell Reese.
that's
Jeez.
kind of the list. It is. I mean, I that's like Peter Woods maybe if he has more of an impact on games here in the second half of the season, but that's kind of my list. Like it's not long. And so I think that will certainly help a guy like Love where a team picking 7th overall is looking at their options and being like, yeah, I mean, do we really take a player we project as a B level pass rusher? I mean, we could use one, but do we take the B level pass rusher or do we take the A explosive weapon that's going to help our offense immediately? Like that's the conversation that probably the Raiders had last year, but it's a conversation I think teams are going to have in this year's top 10.
we're just gonna do this until the end of time. We're just gonna argue about whether it's too early to take a running back every year,
That's the draft's the
and
best.
this is a year. This is a year where maybe, yeah, you have to weigh that and be like, "Hey, you want the best running back there is, or do you want a pass rusher that you're not in love with just because it's a more valuable position?" I can't wait is what I'm trying to say. That doesn't sound toxic at all.
We can't talk about Love without also mentioning Jadarian Price too. He was awesome.
Oh,
This year he's averaging 6.7 yards per carry. The vision that he's playing with, the balance. I wish they featured him more in the passing game. He only has 3 targets this year, but we've talked about since August. How running back 2 is wide open. Love has got running back 1 locked up. That's been true since, last year. But running back 2, wide open, and, we've talked about Jonah Coleman, from Washington, Justice Haynes from Michigan. Jadarian Price is right there in that mix, and we have never seen the first 2 running backs drafted in a single draft be from the same school. We've seen 2 of the first 3, going back to, Ronnie Brown, Cadillac Williams, Darren McFadden and Felix Jones did that, but we've never seen the first 2. And at least this year, Price is a 4th-year guy, so I don't think it'd be a surprise if he came out. It's at least possible that we could see it this year with those 2 guys.
I don't think we've mentioned this when we've brought up Price either, but a very useful kick returner.
Yes.
He has 2 on the year now. He did it against Purdue, huge in the kick return game against USC, totally changed the complexion of that game. So, and I know you're typically not asking like your top running back to be a kick returner in the NFL, but if he winds up on a team where he's the backup or if he's got to fight for more playing time, I think that is definitely worth bringing up.
No doubt, yep, and I just we'll between now and the draft, I think we will continue to talk about that running back 2 spot and, just it'll be different for every team, and Price at least we deserve he deserves to have more people talking about him.
One other guy I'm gonna shout out. You typically don't give out game balls in losing efforts, but Kaytron Allen, we
Yes.
did a whole spiel last week about what's the rest of this season gonna be like for these Penn State players, and they wind up losing to Iowa in a heartbreaker, like the quintessential Big Ten game,
Uh-huh.
honestly. But Kaytron Allen, 28 carries, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had like one explosive, but the vast majority of it was just working through trash, bullying guys, just playing Big Ten football. And I saw he had a quote afterward where he was basically like, "Well, I would never quit on my team. Like, whatever. The NFL will be there later, but I would never do that." And I'm just like, okay, it's exactly the type of stuff we said we wanted to see from a team that's had a disappointing year.
And it was really a 50-50 split, in terms of snaps, carries, between Nicholas Singleton and Kaytron Allen, um, for most of the season, and then really the last few games, we've seen it kinda shift towards Allen, to be that bell cow, and against Iowa, Singleton, 6 carries, 2.5 yards per carry, Allen, 28 carries, 5.2 yards per carry. So, like, I think we mentioned it was the last show or show before that, Singleton's the better athlete, no doubt. He's over 6 foot, he's 220 pounds, he's gonna run probably in the 4.3s. So he's the better, freakier athlete. Allen is the better running back, pure and simple. And Terry Smith, the interim head coach, he made sure the better running back was seeing most of the action. Now, again, yeah, like you said, they still lost, but that was because the quarterback that's filling in for Drew Aller was pretty terrible. Did you see the numbers for Penn State's leading receiver against Iowa? How many receiving yards do you think their leading receiver had?
I mean, just watching the game back earlier this week, gosh, it couldn't have been more than 50.
19.
Yeah, or yeah, I gave him too much credit.
They had 6 players over 10 yards, none over 20. Just a ridiculous showing from that
I mean,
passing attack.
that game was check down city and like throw to the tight end in the flat. Yeah, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So just Penn State they've got Ohio State coming up here, so it's not going to get much better. But I think that we're going to see them, especially with this quarterback situation, we're going to see them rely on Allen in that backfield more and more. So he's going to get plenty of opportunities to show why he's an NFL guy.
All right, let's move on to our top 50 stock watch. And we were going through this in the pre-production meeting, Dane, and it just sounded like something we could flesh out into a fuller conversation. And if you're on social or watching college football this weekend, maybe you noticed the top receivers in this receiving class went off. I mean, across college football, the guys that we have talked about as the cream of the crop in this class really rose up all at the same time. I mean, it started Friday night with Chris Bell going off in the upset that Louisville had against Miami. Jordyn Tyson had another great week. Carnell Tate is averaging a circus catch a week at this point. Makai Lemon, maybe not his craziest game of the year, but still a productive game against Notre Dame.
Credit to Leonard Moore. Man, that guy is so good. Corner for the Irish. He's only a sophomore, so we're not talking about him for a reason. But at this time next year, yeah, we'll be talking about him quite a bit. Whenever, and him covering Lemon made things tough and forced the offense to go away from Lemon, which a lot of those Jacoby Lane stepped up, but at the same time, if Moore can have that type of impact against Lemon, man, it says a lot about him as a player. So yeah, it's just sorry, didn't want to interrupt you, but wanted to give Leonard Moore credit because he is awesome.
So the question I want to pose to you is to go back to August. We kind of framed this receiver class as well, Jordyn Tyson is probably wide receiver one, and there are guys worth being excited about here, but we just need to see it. We need to see these guys take the next step and put their best foot forward toward being in that conversation. And here we are in late October, and it kind of feels like that's happening, man. Like, I think I don't want to speak for you, but it feels fair to be a lot more excited about the receiver class than we were before the season started.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not that we didn't like these receivers over the summer, but it was maybe a little bit of a we like them, but wish we loved them. Wish we were more excited about this group. And the way they've played this year, yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot more optimism about what they put on tape, about their futures. Some guys have really stepped up. And some of the preseason rankings were based off of traits, based off of, hey, I think this guy could be something. Chris Bell, perfect example. I think he could be something, and so far he has lived up to it, no doubt. Jordyn Tyson's been wide receiver one since the summer, and man, he is now he sees a ton of targets. Arizona State knows, who is the guy in that offense, and they feed him. But he answers, and you could tell in that Texas Tech game he was not healthy. It was a hamstring, but he did not look 100%, and yet they still peppered the ball to him because he's getting open and making plays. Even on that last drive, it was the fourth down that he was able to get open and Levitt hit him for a big gain, and then they had the pass interference because the Texas Tech tried to hold him to slow him down because he was going to get open in the corner of the end zone. So the way that Jordyn Tyson impacts that game is why Arizona State won and why he is, or one of the reasons why he's wide receiver one in this class. He leads all of college football in catches of or first down catches this year, or catches that resulted in first down or a touchdown. So he is absolutely lived up to all the praise that we put on him coming into the year.
So let me ask you this. It's my turn to put you on the spot. We look at these top guys, and we'll throw in Denzel Boston as well up at Washington, having a really nice season. Where are you stacking these guys up? I mean, we just said that there aren't a ton of guys that you're super excited about like the thought of drafting them in the top 10.
Right.
But from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've got 4 or 5 guys that are at least worthy of being talked about as like first round considerations. Like, are
No
are
doubt.
all of
Yeah.
these guys like back half of the first round type of guys, or are we still trying to see if they're more top 50 guys? Like, how do you see this shaking out?
So yeah, coming into the year, in my top 50, I had Tyson was, let me look it up, 12th. So he was already kind of like right there. And I think Tyson has been as advertised. I kind of feel perfect about him right there. Chris Bell was wide receiver two for me at 25 overall. I'm kind of still, Bell has played really well this year, but that was kind of, I baked that into my ranking of having him 25 overall. So I'm kind of still right there with Chris Bell. Carnell Tate, he was at 31. He's played better than I expected. I mean, obviously he was 31, so I knew he was someone that was talented and there's a lot to like about him, but he's even more detailed than I think I gave him credit for. And last year he had some drops that were really frustrating and just wasn't as consistent. Now, this year, third year, he's a junior, becoming a full time starter. You don't see those mental mistakes. You don't see a guy that's making any type of miscues. He is buttoned up. He's finishing. And I mean, the way you set it up, he's making some highlight plays that are just ridiculous that down the field. And yes, part of that is what Jeremiah Smith is doing, drawing coverage to him. It's not like this is some big secret with Carnell Tate. I mean, he is making plays. He is creating his own separation because of the detailed routes. He is winning down the field because he is better at attacking the football. And so he is a guy that is moving up. I mean, he would be probably, yeah, somewhere in the top 25 ahead of Chris Bell for me. And then Mekhi Lemon's also ahead of Chris Bell, somewhere in the top 25 for me. And so these are guys that are, I don't know that I feel great about them in the top 10 like I did like Malik Neighbors and those guys, but in this draft especially, yeah, these are top 25 picks. And Chris Bell would be the most interesting, I think. It's funny. This happens every year where coming into the year, Chris Bell was one of quote unquote my guys. You know, like I'm betting on this guy. Like
Absolutely.
there's
You
talent here.
planted your flag. Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure.
It's gonna get to the point where people pass me, like they pass my opinion of him, and that's fine. Like if you really are hyped up enough on this guy that you want to take him top 15, top 20, that's great. But trust what your eyes tell you. I think that's gonna happen with him. The trick will be with him is on the spectrum of AJ Brown to Traylon Burks, Brown obviously being best case scenario, Burks being worst case, where do you see Chris Bell? I think that's the question that evaluators need to ask themselves. I don't think, I mentioned AJ Brown's name in my tweet about Chris Bell on Saturday morning from what he did Friday night. It's more for the acceleration that he plays with for a guy that's 6'2", 227 pounds. I think they're different players. I don't think he's necessarily AJ Brown, but he's on that spectrum, and I think it's up to evaluators to determine how close is he to AJ Brown? Is he in the middle of those two? And that'll kind of determine how high you rank him. But yeah, I think if we're gonna list those four players, I think he's clearly fourth for me.
I have been guilty of getting too enamored with that type of receiver where like just the blend of size and explosiveness is intoxicating,
Yes.
especially when you see a guy like when you see what a guy like AJ Brown is capable of, or Des Bryant, to take it back to the beginning of my time covering the NFL. I get it, but it's something you got to watch out for, I guess. Not to say that he will or won't meet any of those expectations, but
Yeah, and he's awesome. Like
um,
he's so much fun to watch because of how gifted he is. And we like the last 3 games, he's been over 100 yards every time, and he's made a big. They don't win that game against Miami without Chris Bell.
the
Plain
run
simple.
after catch
Oh my
is just
gosh.
disgusting. It's crazy.
The way that he just tore through that defense without, I mean, if it was two-hand touch, I'm not sure that they get him. That type of acceleration at that size is crazy. So yeah, I had a second round grade on him coming into the year. I'm sticking with the second round grade on him, and I hope he goes earlier. That'd be awesome for him. But I'm glad you mentioned Denzel Boston. He had a sick catch down the field against Michigan, even though it wasn't a great showing for that offense. Michigan really shut him down. But Denzel Boston, he's your traditional X receiver. Line him up on the outside. He can line up in the slot too, but he's not going to run a blazing 40. But he still has decent down the field skills because he tracks the ball well. His catch radius is huge. So I'm glad you mentioned him. He's also in this mix as a top 50 guy. And I want to also mention Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. Is not,
If you hadn't, I was going to.
yeah, he's not exceptional at anything, but he's just good at everything across the board. He is going to help an NFL offense. He's a good football player, and I think he'll be a good pro for a long time.
Several of Bama's biggest plays were just pure, like, run after catch ability from Jeremy Bernard the other night.
They're getting him involved a lot more with, jet sweeps, and, I mean, he was lining up in the backfield at times. Yeah, they give him a lot of screens where it's, let him catch it, let him go create, let him go do something, and they get him involved in the blocking as well, where they're asking him to go up against linebackers and DNs. Like, they really rely on Jeremy Bernard to do a lot in that offense.
So what I'm hearing is this could be a similar draft to 2023 where maybe there's not like a top 10, top 12, even top 15 wide receiver, but that was the year that 4 of them went in a row,
And some
starting with
goods.
Jackson Smith and
Yeah.
Jigba
Zay
all the way through
Flowers
to
in
Jordan
there.
Addison. Yeah,
Yeah.
Quentin Johnston,
Yep.
Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison. I think a lot of guys that I would be excited to draft at some point in the first round. And then, yeah, Jeremy Bernard. Is there real quickly, like, is there if we're talking about guys that you're not really sure they're on that level of the main guys we've mentioned, the top 4 or 5 guys, is there anybody else besides Jeremy Bernard you've got an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these underclassmen, like Casey Concepcion at Texas A&M, I think will be in that day 2 conversation. Antonio Williams at Clemson, now that he's back and healthy, I think we'll see more out of him. Scouts still like him on day 2. Yeah, I think there's a lot of underclassmen that are talented and that could work themselves into this mix. Yeah, no doubt.
All right, Dan, couple more items of business. We're going to move on to our prospect snapshot. Do you mind if I start? Because this was a really
Please,
exciting one for me.
absolutely.
So I'm watching college football on Saturday. I took a break in the afternoon to go meet up with some friends, and I come back and I'm catching up on everything, and I'm watching the late games, and Auburn Mizzou goes to overtime. And if you listen to this show, we know all about Mizzou's defense. We know all about Zion Young, the defensive end out of Missouri. But we get to overtime, and they do the kickoff or the coin flip, excuse me. And you've probably seen this going around social, but Mizzou wins the toss and chooses to go on defense because that's typically what you do in college football. And Zion Young just loses his. He's just like, let's go. You know what time it is. He is barking at all of the Auburn captains. The Auburn players and the ref are like, holy crap, what's going on? Like, this dude's like ready to brawl right there at midfield. And if that wasn't like cool enough, Auburn gets the ball, and on the second play, Zion Young sacks Jackson Arnold and ruins Auburn's drive. They wind up missing a field goal. Missouri goes on to win in double overtime. But if we're talking about a snapshot, like one moment that tells you all about Zion Young, talking Matt and being like way too amped up and then delivering on it with a sack, that feels like a pretty good snapshot of Zion Young to me.
So, no joke, this is what I have from, in my notes from my scout. Big, loud personality, you hear him before you see him, and I like that exactly. The way that he comes off, that hype, that energy, it probably seems a little too much at times, but coaches love that. This is exactly the type of hype man they want in their room, and, I mean, even better than that is this dude's playing up to that level where, okay, 6'5", 255, 80-inch wingspan. I put him in my top 50 because of the flashes he put on last year's tape. He's absolutely taken that next step in terms of on-field play, on-field impact. 28 pressures this year. That's more than he had all of last year. So he has intriguing traits, and now we're seeing more of an impact on tape. And so right now he is second in the SEC in pressures, second in tackles for loss, second in forced fumbles. And so I do this with my top 50 where I tend to my summer top 50. I tend to put some toolsy guys in there and, because I think they'll take that next step. And a lot of times that doesn't work out. A lot of times I regret putting some of those toolsy guys on there because it just doesn't come to fruition. But guys like Chris Bell, Zion Young, those are examples of guys that kind of they not only have the tools and the traits, but now all of a sudden they develop into guys that are having impacts on Saturdays during the games. So yeah, it's been really fun to see him show out.
I will say it's probably something teams are gonna look into because I think it's something you still have to harness, right? Like
No doubt.
Zion Young he drew a huge taunting flag against Alabama that it kept a Bama touchdown drive going. And then when he was at Michigan State, this is one of the guys that was involved in that incident in the tunnel between Michigan and Michigan State. So football coaches love this type of juice, but you got to be able to count on it to not screw you over too. And so I'm sure that's something teams are going to be digging into.
No doubt, and he's still a young guy, relatively for a senior. I think he's 21 right now, so like he is still a relative young guy, and I think that as long as teams feel comfortable that they can keep a lid on it, then there's nothing else, at least to my knowledge, off the field like criminal that you worry about. It's more just making sure that everything I've heard is he's the type of loud that you like being around, like the guys in the building, the guys in that locker room. It's not the obnoxious loud where it's like, like let's talk about something else here. But no, I'm glad you brought him up because that was a fun. He's a fun player. He's been good all season, and yeah, he was a big part of why Missouri was able to close that game out.
I got fired up. It was awesome. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with two guys real quick. First of all, Caden Proctor had a ridiculous seal block on the edge where he literally launched one guy into another to take him out and help them score six. I put the clip on my Twitter, so check that out if you haven't. And then I wanted to talk about Derrick Moore from Michigan as well. I mean, watching that Washington Michigan tape from this past weekend, Moore just kept jumping out. He leads Michigan in sacks. He leads them in pressures. Against the Huskies, he had 2 sacks. He had a forced fumble late in that game. He's a little stiff. Physicality tends to run a little hot cold, and I think that's something that you worry about with him. But I think he's shown better maturity with his hands this year. So he looks the part. He's 6'3" and a half, 265 pounds, 34-inch arms. I don't necessarily see a starter with him, or I haven't seen enough of an impact from him to say he's definite starter, but he's the type of prospect you draft on day 2, and because at worst, he's part of your rotation, and then hopefully you can continue developing him and turn him into more than that.
I'll admit I rolled my eyes pretty heavily at Sharon Moore up at Michigan wearing his blue collar jacket to the press conference last week, but it looks like it worked. 24/7 against Washington, just in time. Speaking of Michigan, Michigan State, just in time to go up and play the Spartans. So we'll see if they can keep that rolling. Speaking of which, I didn't leave a lot of time in the episode to talk week 9. Not a great week. I mean, there's intrigue there if you look for it, but this is not a loaded schedule. I guess I mean, from a narrative standpoint, it's just wild that Missouri at Vanderbilt is one of the biggest games of the week. I mean,
Crazy.
we talked about Vandy and Mizzou's D line. I don't know if that's like a loaded NFL type of game. Like what stands out to you this weekend?
Yeah, well, we mentioned Eli Stowers for Vanderbilt and Zion Young for Missouri, and so I mean these two teams have prospects to watch. Yeah, I mean Mississippi and Oklahoma, John Mateer, what can, he bounced back from that Texas loss, and he didn't have an amazing game last week, but he was solid. Can he build off of that and stack some good tapes here? Baylor at Cincinnati, Brendan Sorsby, the quarterback for the Bearcats. Anytime I have a chance to watch him, I'm going to because he's very, very talented, and there's something there. We just have to figure out, what the ceiling is, what's the floor, but clearly talented, and I really enjoy watching him. And then,
Low key, I think that's my favorite game of the day is Baylor at Cincinnati.
yeah,
And I mean,
sneaky.
we've talked about Sawyer Robertson and the talent on
Yep.
Baylor's offense going up there.
Two good tight
We
ends.
highlighted, yeah, we
Michael
highlighted
Trigg,
all
yeah.
of Cincinnati's guys. I think like this has the potential to be the most entertaining game of the weekend.
That's a good point because both these quarterbacks are really interesting, and both tight ends are fighting to be the first senior tight end drafted. Michael Trigg for Baylor and Joe Royer for Cincinnati. So that's a good shout. I also wanted to add Stanford at Miami to the list, and I know what you're thinking. Stanford's not very good. Miami, really good. Maybe not as interesting after losing to Louisville last week. Main reason to watch this game, Stanford left tackle Nicky Prongos, one of my favorite underrated mid-round guys this year. He's a 4th-year junior, so he might go back. But UCLA transfer, light-footed, can get himself out of compromised situations. One of the reasons why I hope he goes back to school is so he can get stronger. And that's why this matchup would be really interesting because he'll be going up against Ruben Bain and, one of the strongest ends in the country. And Mesidor on the other side is no slouch either. So great test for Prongos at left tackle and just to kind of see where he is in his development. But a reason to watch Stanford at Miami.
That's why we call it building the beast, buddy. Because anybody can tell you about Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, but we're here to tell you about Nicky Prongus, number 66 for the Stanford Cardinal, with a big test coming up this weekend. Big win for Stanford. I don't know how many people saw it at 1 a.m. out on the West Coast, but a big win over FSU, so we'll see if they can keep it going. That does it for this week. Dane will not be back next week. He's got
I'm on
an
assignment.
obligation. But yeah, Dane's on assignment, but we will have another episode of Building the Beast for you next week. We're with you all college football season and into the draft cycle. We appreciate it. We'll talk to y'all real soon.
Thanks for watching. Follow The Athletic Football Show wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe on YouTube.